One of my subscribers turned me on to this. I knew Tulsi Gabbard sent the response in the form of a tweet when Kamala Harris exited, surprisingly, suddenly, quickly, exited the Democratic Party race. Bloomberg was picking over her carcass, pilfering one of her communication staff, or state staff, I'm sorry. On top of that, 2 bombshell articles, not to mention the resignation letter of the person who left, was scathing. It was utterly scathing. And it showed a certain degree of dysfunction within the context of the way Kamala Harris was running the race. We knew she was cutting down on a number of staff, and apparently she fired people suddenly without giving a reason for it. Let's just say it wasn't going well. Thing is though, there are 2 people in this race that I actually like. Sanders, clearly, 1000% in it, like the guy. All of this is based on ideology, though. If he changed, I would drop him like a hot potato. And Tulsi. Tulsi was willing to take the heat and get hated by the party itself for supporting Sanders. By itself, it deserves a certain degree of, allegiance is too strong, but at the very least support, especially in the face of all of the people who religiously, insanely hate her. Well, Kamala Harris gets taken to the woodshed by Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard picks her apart in the second debate. Kamala Harris's star falls. And even though she stumbles out the building, the knife that Tulsi Gabbard left in her left a slow bleed that mixed with the mismanagement and mixed with the not in the right political climate, it was the death knell, Knell, for her campaign. Actually, I want to use nail, like nail in the coffin. But you get my point. It was too much for her to overcome. What is understood, however, is that Gabbard was the one that did it. Now, people may use all of these other different reasons and everything else, but the big show of it was Gabbard putting a knife in her and her star falling almost overnight. You can look at the polling after that debate. She had lost like 14 points in some of those polls. It was Gabbard. So you can imagine that the 3% support that Kamala Harris had that really loved her, they loved that justice thing, was very angry when Tulsi Gabbard put out a tweet. Now, the tweet wasn't bad, but think of this in human terms. Your enemy, your enemy sends you a get well soon card, and you're like, bastard. I have it in my head as a British person. They just get slapped as you bastard. You've disarmed me. You've disallowed me to flip out. So I am going to just be angry and bitter in silence. But my supporters will not be silent about the anger and the bitterness that's going to be displayed. I'm going to show you Tulsi Gabbard's tweet. Hot ice. Hot ice. And I'm going to show you the response by K-Hive and Kamala Harris supporters. I don't mean to laugh, dog. And I get it. It hurts when your candidate loses. It hurts. It burns. But these responses are unhinged. Let's have some fun. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I am a creature of my environment. And I grew up playing chess. I'm sorry. For 20 years or more. It's what I used to escape when I was dealing with kidney failure and stuff like that. It's the way I process the world. It's the way I processed the world for a very long time. Action, consequence, intention, this mitigation. That's the way I process the world. And when I look at politics is a refined game space, but it is a game space. It's a competitive competition. There's just a huge amount at stake, but the rule set and what you do within the context of the game, the variables are, those things are different. But it's still a competition. This is a low-level war of sorts, even though it's within the context of the same party. I grew up with grown men saying very bad things to me, playing chess. And yeah, I'm a creature of my environment. As I got older and I became a monster at the game, no one talked shit to me. I was the one that knocked. It's the way I process the world. So I'm sorry for laughing at your candidate failing in this way, but she did fail. And I gotta be honest, it warms my heart to see it. Take a look at this. This is awesome. Kamala Harris is being asked about getting deflated by Tulsi Gabbard on the stage. Listen to her response. Her response is priceless.
The toughest critique or attacks at you came from Tulsi Gabbard. Just for our viewers who haven't seen it, I just want to play some of that and have you respond.
Okay. I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
Now, here's the catch. She did get a response. For all of those people who are very angry at Tulsi Gabbard is doing her job. And they did give her the opportunity to respond. Even now, Anderson Cooper is going to give her the opportunity to respond. Let's hear her get that opportunity to respond.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice. I am proud of that work. Just give fancy speeches, doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform.
Did you expect that from Tulsi Gabbard? Had you had interaction about that in the past? And how do you think it went?
Well, I mean,
how are you this bad at your job? How are you this bad at your job? Are you serious? How do you think it went? How do you think what went? How do you think what went, Anderson? Wouldn't the operative question be, she hit you with a lot right there. Would you like to respond further to any of what she gave you? The debate time didn't give you a huge amount of time in order to formulate your response. Would you like to explain some of the items that she dropped there? You leaving this kind of weird open-ended question, how do you think that went? The question is not how do you think that went? It's, do you have a response to the things that she said? You give her a chance to make her point. But this is how it goes. Kamala Harris can say anything she wants here because Anderson Cooper didn't put any constraints on the question.
I mean, listen, this is going to sound immodest, but I'm obviously a top-tier candidate, and so I did expect that I would be on the stage and take hits tonight because there are a lot.
Obvious. It's obvious I'm a top-tier candidate. It goes without even saying. It goes without saying I'm a top-tier fucking candidate. How dare she talk to me in these terms? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Keep going.
A lot of people that are trying to make the stage for the next debate.
Yeah, for a lot of them, it's do or die.
Well, yeah, and especially when people are at 0 or 1% or whatever she might be at. And so I did expect that.
That's where you're at. That's where you're at. This doesn't age well at all. That's where you're, well, I'm sorry, 3%. And if we're talking about New Hampshire, she is ahead of you in New Hampshire. In fact, Bloomberg jumps into the race, drops $20 million into a few states, and now he's polling in the number 6 spot. 6% ahead of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris didn't want to get embarrassed in California. As much as this is about money, it's also about her getting embarrassed. Let's let her keep going with this. She's feeling herself.
I might take hits tonight. But, you know, listen, I think that this coming from someone who has been an apologist for an individual, Assad, who has murdered the people of his country to, like cockroaches.
So Assad apology. She's an Assad apologist. So look, I don't want to explain anything about the record that Tulsi Gabbard said. By the way, all of it was true. all of it was true. At any point, Kamala Harris could have said, no, the death row thing is not true. That didn't happen. That's you misunderstood. No, all of that was true. I can show you the videos, the news reports that were coming out about it, the paying people to fight fires, keeping people in jail and paying them in order to fight fires, like 15 or 8 cents. This is true. She didn't even go to the truancy stuff. Now, Tulsi Gabbard is still in the race. Tulsi Gabbard is one poll away from getting into the next debate in December. And not just one poll away, she should have been in the debate. The DNC shafted her on one of the polls that came out saying that despite it coming from the same polling agency, because it came from Boston Globe as opposed to USA Today, they're not going to accept it. Utter nonsense. However, she's still one poll away from getting on the debate stage. Kamala Harris, top tier candidate, Kamala Harris is no longer in the race. So, Tulsi Gabbard, sending her aloha, sending my best wishes to Kamala Harris, her family, and her supporters who have campaigned so hard. While we disagree on some issues, we agree on others, and I respect her sincere desire to serve the American people. I look forward to working together on challenges we face as a nation. Now, Tulsi Gabbard knows. She knows. She's a person. She knows. She knows. It goes without being said, but she knows, just like everybody else who reads this tweet knows, that yes, these are flowers. These are flowers, but there's poison in those flowers. There's poison there. They know, just as a person, just dealing as a person, my nemesis, my antagonizer has beaten me. You know, I said there's a Cleon thing that says all of my enemies are dead so I can sleep quietly at night. That type of stuff. Well, not so much. You're being taken out of the contest. You're being dumped off the island. And Tulsi Gabbard is still on the island. She's still running in that contest. You deemed yourself a top tier candidate. And maybe because you have, more billionaires than anybody else dumping money in your pocket. But you deemed yourself a top tier candidate. And how dare this other Russian plant, this Putin apologist, talk to me in such a way, telling the world of all of my sins, yet all of them are absolutely true. So people know that there is a bit of poison to this, and that there is a slight dickishness, even when dickishness is not intended. Meaning, she could have wrote this with all the sincerity in the world, and there was no way anybody was going to take this as sincere. So let's look at the response. The responses are gold. Right here. Something is very wrong with the world when someone like Kamala Harris feels the need to drop out of a presidential race while someone like Tulsi Gabbard thinks she has the right to remain in it. Very wrong. Hashtag K-Hive. Hashtag K-Hive. All right? Fair enough. Right here. Somebody said this was so petty. I love it. I don't think it was petty at all. It's funny as all hell. I mean, I guess you could make an argument that Tulsi shouldn't have said anything because anything that she said was going to be taken as slightly dickish. So what? I love this. Personally, I love this. This is Donald Trump's war room. Breaking news. Kamala Harris has ended her campaign for president. Congratulations, Tulsi Gabbard. This is Donald Trump's war room. Donald Trump's war room. Let's say, here's another one. Let's get to the meat of it. The angry people. Here's another one. Portia Maleficent McGona girl. Listen up. I would chew both of my arms off before I vote for you, ever. That you're still in this race at all, regardless of Senator Harris suspending her campaign, is part of everything that is wrong with this country. Think about that. Think about what she's saying. Tulsi Gabbard remaining in the race in a democratic election, meaning people choose who they want. And the fact that people chose Gabbard over her candidate, at least within the context of the money that was being raised and her ability to stay into the race and get on the debate stage, yeah, that is everything wrong with this country. Everything wrong. Wow. That's astonishing. I love this because it gives you the point of view of the person who's saying it. This is awesome. I don't know how it could divide anyone. The spirit of aloha and working together are central themes of the campaign. You know that even if Tulsi meant that with all the aloha in the world, that it was never going to be taken in those terms. Some people say, can you take down Pete? The salt is strong in this one. You should have just sat there and ate your toenails, Tulsi. That's nasty, and I don't even know what that means. Tulsi ended Kamala. Even if you don't support her, it's a reality. Centrists will hate her forever, and that's the reason why I like her. You must understand, the Democratic Party back in 2016 ejected a lot of people from the party, me being one of them. A lot of people who looked at this and said, A, you cheated my guy, and B, not just cheated my guy, this is supposed to be a democratic process, and you completely destroyed any notion of this being an election. You had a person who you wanted, and you guys chose. Even if you pushed the needle 1 iota, you still pushed the needle. His point is, they're going to hate you forever for taking this woman out. And that's why I like you. He's one of those people that was probably alienated by the way the party acted in 2016. Right here. I'll just leave this here, Tulsi aside. Tall aside. I don't like nationalists or religious nut jobs, even if they prefer off-brand variety of both. Modi is a murderer. Here's another one. Shut the fuck up, Kremlin Barbie. As sincere as thoughts and prayers. These people are lunatics. I heard it's a Russia publication. Fuck Tulsi. She's a Republican. She's not a Republican. I didn't know Republicans were for even some kind of healthcare plan. I blame you for a campaign collapse. I hope I blame you for Pete's campaign's death too. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Tulsi Gabbard, Moscow showing class. Fuck out of here. Look at this. Look at this. These people are unhinged. Go fuck yourself. Can't believe I lost to Russians. Real Hillary was right. I don't know what that means. People are saying go get Pete. Unhinged. Unhinged. But their feelings are hurt right now. Their candidate, just out of the blue, dogged by money issues and media issues, up and just left the campaign trail. Yes, Tulsi had her part in that. Fair enough. You're angry and you're bitter right now. Fair enough. Go to the corner, get that shit together. Fair enough. I suppose part of that 3% is going to go somewhere, despite these people being rather butthurt right now. Tulsi, just giving her aloha. Hot ice. Hot ice. Tulsi is a person. And as a person, I think she had to know that this was going to burn. This was going to burn. This is one of the best things I've seen today. Honestly. Honestly. Alright, I'm going to end this because I have one or two more that I want to do before this one gets too late and we're already at like 12 o'clock. But yeah, neoliberal tears. Neoliberal tears. Oh, the tears of neoliberals. It's what, 6 people? Tulsi may make the debate stage. And God, I hope she makes the debate stage. She's one away. And if she gets on the debate stage in December, she's fighting until she gets to the next one. I mean, they're making it more and more stringent. I would imagine at some point they have to stop trying to constrain the election process. But they hate her. She is considered a villain in this process. And so for her to put out this, get well soon. Get well soon. Oh, I love this. I love this. God, I love this. All right. Like, her 3% goes to Pete, right? Right, Bob? Right. Her 3%. So my thought is her 3% goes to either Pete or Warren. Pete or Warren. I mean, they're floating. It's like this kind of liberal bubble where they're floating. Kamala Harris closed the New Hampshire office. Yeah, she did. But nobody thought she was going to end her campaign. Like, even the people were making like super PACs and that type of stuff. She had $1 million super PAC in order to help her with her campaign money woes right when she quit. They didn't know. When she called her campaign office, for them, it was out of the blue. Despite her shutting down the office, they didn't know she was going to end the campaign itself. They stole the Boston Globe. Yes. Yeah, that's the poll I was talking about. They said because it came from the Boston Globe instead of USA Today, it wasn't adequate. Now, understand what they mean by this, though. The people who did the polling was Suffolk Poll. Suffolk Poll was a poll that the DNC accepted as one of their polls. But they said, well, wait, this is from Boston Globe, who's paying for it. And for some reason, we're to believe that the Boston Globe got Suffolk to use some kind of polling process that is different. I don't know why that would be the case. I mean, that would be more disturbing if the person who's paying the polling agency gets polling done in various different ways. That would defeat the point of having an agency to do it. Nevertheless, that's what the DNC is arguing. Boston, Suffolk is not acceptable, but USA Today, Suffolk is. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to talk about somebody treated poorly, Gabbard. I mean, they're whining and complaining about Kamala Harris. You know who else is a person of color? Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is also a person of color. They may not necessarily own that, and maybe she's not their type of color, but she is a person of color. And she may be on the debate stage. She's still in this race. So is Yang. He's still in this race. He may even get on the debate stage. These are also people of color. But they're not their type of people of color. They want their neoliberal. I guess you can't ride Willie Brown to the White House. No, you can't. I suppose you can't. Castro, yes, Castro, Trudy. He's still in the race. Yeah, Castro's still in the race. So it's not like, people of color are just out of the race. Their issue is not on the debate stage. But again, if African Americans wanted Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, they could have voted for him. They just didn't. Not black and blue. No, it's not black and blue. Personally, I like the clarified campaign of socialists versus, or let's call it change versus staying. Meaning, the Democratic Party is in the face of an interregnum. This is almost like you can expect it to some degree. You lost to reality show hosts. You lost the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and yes, the presidency, all to reality show hosts, not to mention 1,100 seats all throughout the United States. How do you lose that much? And then come to the party and say, we're the adults in the room. And if the people who are losing that much are part of this kind of third way, democratic, hegemonic control of the party itself, going all the way down to the people who they try to push in order to run those elections. If that's the case, then the part of the party that was pushed to the corner starts to assert itself. You're not the adults in the room. You fucking lost. You couldn't protect us from maniacs. And now you have this clarified fight in the context of the party, especially from the standpoint of the youth who want something different, who is voting for an old Jewish man across the board, meaning all of the demographics, and the aged who's voting for, they want to go back to the Obama years. We want to feel better. We don't care about this other stuff. We just want to feel good. That's the clarified race. And I got to be honest, I'm happy to see the race clarify into those terms. J. Ville, Kamala lost weight on drugs, quitting time, rehab. I don't know if she lost weight on drugs. Trudy, sorry. I am high. I knew what I meant when I said that. Oh, that's okay, Trudy. Fred Edwards, African American-ish is perfect. Well, she's mixed, and from my understanding, there were times where she, owned it, and there were times where she didn't. And so I don't mean that as a negative. I just mean that as the racial thing is diverse. Elizabeth Warren is 1024th Native American. Well, that's enough. I mean, for her to be, I suppose a Native American. She has it on her Texas license, so, it has to be true. I bathe in Kamala's fans' tears. Zinda Kuja, I gotta be honest, I do too. These are the same people that laughed at me when they cheated my guy. And so my sympathies don't necessarily run all that deep. Even though from a pain standpoint of losing, I understand it. But I gotta be honest, I think my pain ran deeper. And I think Sanders' supporters' pain ran deeper. It ran into this notion of, we have an odd quirk about us, the left. And however, I don't mean that in the way that this corporatist left. I mean the actual left. the people who go trend almost towards communists, socialists, who they call themselves progressives, whatever. There is something in us that look at the world and say it shouldn't be this way. It plagues us. It eats at us. It bugs us. And in doing so, it cajoles us and pushes us to be pretty adamant about pushing a point of view in the world and trying to get that world to change. And in 2016, for the longest time, you were told you can't have nice things, you can't be let out the barn, you got to always be back here, you have nowhere else to go. There is no way the world will be acceptable of the shit that you want. The best thing that you could do is incrementalism. That's all we can have, incrementalism. That is the extent of the left in this country. And Sanders lets the horse out the barn. And people are like, oh, wait, we can have nice things. We were gaslighted all those years. And not just gaslighted all those years, you find that you're in a political climate where the establishment's candidate, the most establishment person that they could put up in any year, in any contest, loses. She loses. And they cheat our guy. Meaning they cheated our guy, the guy who probably could have won that race, and put up somebody who actually lost. And in 2020, the same fight that took place in 2016 essentially happens again. But this time around, with the establishment candidate having lost, having not being inevitable, and having there being a real contest of idealized lines of change versus staying the same. And yeah, it's an existential threat from the standpoint of third-way Democrats, because if Sanders takes it, he remolds the DNC in his own image. And if he is what the Democratic Party stands for, what the fuck are the Democrats? What are you? Like, what is Nancy Pelosi? How is she a Democrat and Sanders is a Democrat? They have very different worldviews. Those are differences in party. And the catch here is, my argument is, these are the same wings or different wings of the same party. You've just gotten so accustomed to seeing this day after day after day that it made it come across as if these are actually 2 points of view. They're not. They're just gradations on one world view. Call themselves liberal Democrats. Sanders changed his name to Labor and let that shit run from there. They're terrified of that also. Him changing his name to Democratic Socialists of America or something. And for the most part, a Democrat no longer has the House. He'd be punished for that in Congress, so I don't necessarily think he'd do that. But I hope you get my point. It's a fight in this case. It's a fight. I assumed that there was going to be a fight in 2020. I think I have said as much more over and over and over again. The fight has to take place at some point. Right? They fully intend to stay in power. They are going to try. They are going to try. Yes, they're going to try. There's 6 ways to Sunday to cheat Tulsi and Bernie. They do it 24/7. Manga vermin. Yes, they do. Soft cheating. Let's call it that way. And not even soft cheating. The media networks hate him, so they don't necessarily want to cover him, but he's a thorn in their shoe. So as he goes up in the polling, they don't have a choice. MSNBC covers him negatively, almost uniformly. CNN, again, negative. It depends on who the lieutenant is that's going out and making that case. Fox News, believe it or not, has a better point of view of Bernie Sanders than some of the other people. And I got to be honest, from the standpoint of independents and, believe it or not, even some right-wingers, Sanders will pull those votes. Biden will not. Biden will not. You know, when there are cyclical things in life that we encounter. It's just weird. It just works that way. It's some kind of quirkiness, something that's, sometimes is off in us, sometimes is good in us, but that drives a situation that happens over and over and over and over again. I can see it in my family. I see it in myself. It's a quirk in us. It's almost like a bit of software that keeps kind of ticking along, that forces us to confront something over and over and over again until we find a new way of doing that particular thing. Society is just an extension of people. I mean, when you're talking about media, you're talking essentially about entertainment on a mass level. When you're talking about intelligence, you're just talking about things that you know, again, on a mass level. All of these things are just edifices that mimic our sensory inputs. My point is, our society is just an extension of us. The cyclical things that we encounter also are political. that you have nowhere else to go, and that takes place for 40 years, and you keep bumping your head on the same thing over and over and over again, that you got to support whatever random Democrat that's put up, and you do it year after year after year after year. And at the end of that, the Republicans get more nuts. And you end up with somebody like Trump, where the distinction between who the Democrat and Republican is has been eroded to such a degree that many people just say, fuck it, I don't see the point. If what you've planned and all the things that you did ended up with somebody like Trump, and by the way, the person who comes behind Trump is not going to be better. My point is, if that is where your strategy has ended up, is it not time for a new strategy? And this notion of choosing just a random hack, blue no matter who, I mean, for fuck's sake, Biden is one of the main people in this race. The notion that you're going to put somebody like that back up is essentially stepping on the same side rail, as opposed to trying something different. This notion of electability, they thought Clinton was more electable. That failed. And yet, here we are again, ready to step on the same rake. Fortunately, the youth in this country are saying no. And there may be more of them as opposed to more of the older demographic that is going to come out to vote this year. And thank fucking God. I mean, ultimately, they're stuck in the past on this stuff. And in being stuck in the past, they just want to feel good about it again, as opposed to using government as an operational edifice. Meaning using it for your own ends. What's the point of using government? The rich damn sure use it for their own ends. Why wouldn't the proletariat? I never understand that. This notion of a class war, and we've been taught, oh, that's a bad term, that's a bad word, you shouldn't necessarily get involved in that. Fuck that. Yeah, I would imagine you wouldn't want that conversation to take place if you were at the top end of that particular scale, and you want to scrub any notion of having a conversation about economic realities that people endure. Both parties are captured. And in the sense of both parties being captured, there needs to be something that chops that down. This cycle needs to end. And we need to get back to the New Dealers and get back in a way that locks the door. That locks the fucking door. All right, I'll leave it. Like, share, subscribe. Trina be fine. Good progressives are more important in Congress and Senate than in the presidential administration. I don't know if I agree, Trina. I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're saying, you know, if they're in Congress, they may be able to control the president, do stuff. But the president sets the agenda. And if the president is not interested in progressive legislation, it doesn't get passed. You know, this notion of getting a super majority in the Senate, and then you have a president that has no interest in doing those things that the lefties may want. It helps to have the president at the helm screaming at Congress for not giving them what he wants. I mean, FDR, for example, Congress at that point did not want to give FDR much of the stuff he wanted. The Supreme Court kept striking his stuff down. He got to the point of talking about packing the bench. That's where the term even comes from. It's the president sets the tone. President sets the tone. So I agree with you. The president needs those people in Congress that can push his agenda because, you know, ultimately they write the legislation. But if you're talking about getting somebody in Congress that will browbeat, cajole, that will use his millions of people to run after and push candidates and push on the political space, that's a president using the bully pulpit for that. And as strong as congressional members are, that's not something they can do single-handedly. Robert Burnham, if Biden wins the primary, I'm writing in Bernie. Same here. Trudy, Brett McKinney piled on the entire machine, more like Ruben Garcia. Wow, even his son is pathetic. Well, his son is a deadbeat dad at this point. Corn Pop Baby Down 2020. Bonzo the journalist. Sanders can't win without Tulsi. Now, that I don't know. I always had these little fantasies that Tulsi talked to Sanders behind the scenes and he's like, I need you to break some legs. It's like, I need you to break some legs. I need you to do work. But I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. All right, I'll end this. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.